Hi guys! If you're anything like me, you might have a bunch of things that you wanted to do this year, but for some reason you just didn't get to, and things are starting to pile up and you feel stressed, but it's not too late. Because today in this video, I want to show you what I usually do when I'm starting to get overwhelmed and things are starting to pile up, and how I get back on track again. For those of you who are new to this channel, welcome to Multiple Careers. I make videos on how you can build a fulfilling career that brings out the best of you. If this is something that you might be interested in, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So let's start, and here are the things that you need. You might want to use a notebook, or you could just use a plain white sheet of paper. It doesn't really matter. I personally really like these moleskin notebooks. They're a bit pricey, but they're so fancy and it really brings me in the mood, but it really doesn't matter. And you need some pens. If you're one of those people who are really neat and organized, then you might want to have a ruler handy. And for me, I always need my cup of coffee or tea, whatever you like, and some snacks. And most importantly, set aside some time where it is quiet and you don't get interrupted. I usually take around 1 hour to do this. The first thing that I do is to do a brain dump, which means that I simply write down everything that is on my mind. And again, you can use your white sheet of paper or you can use your notebook, which I am doing now. But before I start, I will create some categories that will help me to group things and also to prioritize things in the end. I like to create this kind of grid because it helps me to keep a good overview, but if you don't want to do that, you can also just make circles like this. It really doesn't matter. You can do it however you like. And the next thing I'll do is that I'll populate these fields with category names. So you see here, I got this bunch of categories and that I want to do something for even within the little remaining time that I have this year. So I have the categories family, friends, schoolwork, admin stuff, finances, health, dentist, YouTube channel 1, and I've also started 2 new YouTube channels. I know that was a bit too ambitious to do, and film project, holidays or what I want to do for fun, charity or donations, freelance job, and your new year planning. And there is no right way to set these categories. You can break it down however you want. What matters is that you don't leave out anything that is on your mind. Okay, and I'm going to start my brain dump now, and I'm not going to censor myself, but whatever comes to mind, I will immediately put in the related box. And I'm going to time this, and this is not something that I usually do, but I'm just going to do this so that you can get a rough idea about how long this might take you. Okay, so let's start. One tip I have, in case you ever get stuck, is that you can look at any other notes that you might have either on your phone or maybe in some other notebooks, because I do have other notebooks that I use to organize myself. So I'm just going to look into that and see if there's anything that I want to add to this list, because my goal is that in the end, I want to have everything that I want to do at the end of this year in one place. Okay, so now I'm done. This is not everything, I think. There must be something that I left out, but it doesn't matter. I have a lot to work with now. And I've blurred all of these out because there are some things that are a bit more private to me. So don't stress out over it and don't try to make it perfect, because the main goal is just to get at as many things as possible into one place so that you can have a peace of mind. So this took me 14 minutes just now, and I know it looks like a lot, but it's great to see everything on one page. Now, can I do all of this? Let's see. The next step is to decide on a specific time frame. Having a limited time frame can help you to prioritize better and be more efficient. And the time frame that I am looking at is 20 days now, which is from now until the end of the year. But it doesn't have to be until the end of the year. It's useful just to set a fixed time frame because then I feel that it becomes like a game and it's much more fun. So I'm going to write down 20 days. So is this all doable in 20 days? Honestly, I don't know yet because while I have a list of the things that I want to do, I don't have a realistic idea yet about how long these are going to take me. So the next step will be to quantify how much time I need for each of these things. And I'm going to add some columns here. I know it wasn't as well planned. I didn't set aside enough space, but if there's one thing that I learned this year is to not be too perfectionistic, especially regarding the things that are not that important. And the reason that I have these columns is that now beside each of these things that I want to do, I will write down how much time it will approximately take me. And you do not necessarily need these columns. You can just write the number next to each item. So my rule here will be that nothing will be under an hour. And I'm going to continue timing this, and let's start. So here I have video call with family at least one time. Let's say that I have 2 calls, so I'll put 2 hours. And then I have help family with a project of theirs. I'm gonna put down 5 hours. And then I have a couple of other things here. Put 3 hours here, 1 hour. So here's an item that I will take out, which is restart daily exercises. And the reason is because this is not a one-off, but rather this is something that I'll incorporate back into my daily routine. I should have had a separate row here, but I'm just gonna add everything into this little box here. And I'm not finished here with my estimation because now I'm going to go back to each of these items and I'm going to make these more realistic because as we all know, almost everything takes longer than we thought they would because for every item there is some planning, some setup involved. So now I'm going to add roughly 50% or an hour or so just to adjust each of these items and make them more realistic. And now I'm going to do the same and add up all the numbers together. And my grand total is now 149 hours. And I'm just going to write this a bit larger up here so it's clear. So this means that realistically, if I want to do everything here and not leave anything out, it will take me almost 150 hours. Let's move on. Now you can see how likely it's going to take you if you want to do everything. And it kind of gives you some perspective. So I have 150 hours here and compare that against the 20 days that I have. Now what I'll do is I'll estimate the number of hours I'll have to spend on these things. In my case, the school semester has already ended, luckily, but I still have my freelance job and some other routine things to do. So let's just assume that I have 5 hours per day that I can spend on all these things. That makes 5 times 20, which is 100 hours. I know I might have 6 hours, but I don't want to schedule things too tightly because it's always good to have a buffer. But wait, before I forget, earlier I said that I'm going to take 3 days off. So I'm going to strike out the 20 days and the 100 hours, and I'm going to put 17 days instead, times 5 hours. And now the next thing is to reduce some of these things on the list, and I'm going to continue timing this now. So as you see, I have almost 150 hours of work to do and I have 85 hours time to do this. So 149 minus 85, I will just round this up and I'm arriving at 65 hours. Just gonna really mark this. So, and the way that I'm going to do it is that I will start with the must-dos. Must-dos for me are things that are very important to me that I feel I have to do, because otherwise I will hate myself if I don't do it this year or within this time frame. And I'm going to mark all these things with this yellow marker here. And I know it's not easy. It's really hard to do this. Everything is important, right? Everything you want to do, but it's simply not possible. And there you see I missed the line, but I have the buffer, so I should be good. And there are things, for example, here I put write script for shooting project early next year, and I have 15 hours here, but you know, in reality it takes you much more than 15 hours to write a script. So this doesn't mean that I will complete the whole script, but it means that I will spend 15 hours to work on it. Okay, here I have my 3 days off, but this is not part of the 85 hours, so I'm just gonna bracket this. It's really hard. It can really feel hard sometimes to decide between these things. And one of the main challenges is that sometimes we tend to prioritize things that seem urgent, that we have to do. For example, like tidying up documents or organizing files or whatsoever. We feel that we need to do that, but they might not be as important as many other things. And sometimes you just need to say no to these things. While there are other things that don't seem important at all, for example, doing quarterly planning for the next year, it doesn't seem urgent, but nevertheless, they're so important, because if you want major things to change in your life, then you need to plan ahead. And lastly, here I have pick, buy, and read 3 books, and I allocated 20 hours for that, and I'm just going to change that right away to 2 books instead. So I have 2 times 5 hours, and instead of 20, I'll make this 15 hours. So that is much more realistic. And the next thing that I'll do now is that I'll strike out all the things that I'll just let go of, that I'll not make myself do this year. And those things I'm just going to put in brackets. And I'm also going to put a box. So I have gathered tax documents here. Ideally, I would like to do it this year, but it won't be that bad if I do it early next year. Also for this part, I think since this is my new channel, my 3rd channel actually, I'm going to try and slow down a bit here. And I'm also not going to force myself to do this one. Okay. These ones here, I'll leave the binge watch one. I know it's not important, but I think it's important for my sanity in a way, and I'm really looking forward to watch a really good series and not think about the time that I spend. Okay. So the final thing that I need to do for this step is that I need to add up all the numbers that I boxed in. And I reduced things by 34 hours. I'm just gonna put the numbers in here. Doesn't look that neat again, but I just don't have enough space. So I'll put the 65 hours that I wanted to reduce here, and then I have minus 34 hours. So I still have 31 hours that I need to reduce, and that's quite a lot. Okay, so now what's next? Now what I'm going to do is I am going to chart out a few weeks, and then I'm going to plug all these things into my calendar. So for planning, I like to draw out my own calendar, and I will do this here for the remaining 20 days. I happen to be at the end of my notebook. I can start a fresh new notebook in January. I just find the whole process to be therapeutical and also relaxing. So sometimes I do this while putting on some relaxing instrumental jazz music, and it really calms my mind to do this, and I feel really good afterwards. So now I'm going to go back and forth from this sheet to this sheet here. And because I already have the number of hours that I think it will take me, it will be much easier to kind of plug these things in. And it's not a fixed thing. I can still shift around things, but it's just to give me roughly an idea of when I will do what. So I will first start with these 3 days, and whatever I input, I will just cross out here. So I'm not really sure when I'll do this, but it's likely that I will go here. So I'll just put holiday. And I'll use a pencil so later on I can just go and change things, erase things. So I have 3 days holiday. Next, I'll think about what I want to start with, because you always have to think about your energy level. This time of the year here will be really holiday mood, and I might not really be concentrating. So I think that I need to do the parts that are hardest in this week, and that would be starting to write my script, for which I've allocated these 15 hours. And since I'm doing about 5 hours per day, I'm going to put in writing here, put the number 5, writing 5, and writing 5. And again, as I said, later on you can just switch things around. This is just to have everything plugged in. I'm going to do the school stuff earlier in the month. And again, I'm starting with the yellow items. Then I want to help my family member project, 3 hours, and I'll do the rest too. Video call, 3 hours. So I think I got everything in here. I'm later going to go back and check. And I know that although I'm not going to get everything done, I'm pretty sure that I'll have a very good feeling on the 31st, because I am back on track, and at least I've got those things done that I feel are most important to me and that I don't want to postpone any longer. In case you've tried this method, please let me know in the comments how it went for you, if it was useful to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.